What if I told you that in some national parks, staying outside the park is actually the smarter move, and in others, it'll ruin your trip?
And how early is too early to grab that campsite reservation? Can you really outsmart the Recreation.gov system? I have thoughts. Lots of thoughts.
We'll cover which parks are best for kids, the ideal timing for Utah's Mighty Five, a few of our favorite hidden gems in Yellowstone and Grand Teton, and how to plan the perfect Alaska trip.
Today we're tackling your trip planning questions that'll save you time, money, and a whole lot of frustration in 2026. This is the Exploring the National Parks podcast with Dirt in My Shoes. My name is Ash, and I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes. I think that the parks are best seen from the trail, and I'm here to make national park trip planning easy.
And I'm John. I carry the kids on the trails, I tell stories, and notice all the things that Ash doesn't care about much, like trees.
Join us as we show you around America's spectacular national parks.
We're sharing our favorite places, fun facts, adventures, and misadventures.
And we'll even throw in a little trip planning.
Let's start exploring. I mentioned in the Halloween episode that we did that I have been watching The X-Files with the kids, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The funniest thing happened the other day. Oldest son said to me, now that we've been watching like the X-Files and stuff, I don't really think I like the government as much. And I thought to myself, oh shoot, I may have accidentally created a conspiracy theorist or something like it. It's a lot of fun, but
he has a lot of questions.
Yes. So I had a corrective that I had to take. So the other night we watched E.T. as a family, and it was incredible. And it's the perfect corrective for the X-Files in response to, like, you know, alien abductions and things like that. You know, the E.T., oh my gosh, it is just one of the greatest examples of excellent storytelling. I love E.T. And the government, even though they're like kind of scary at first, they actually end up being like not bad people, you know, in the movie. They're not the worst. They're not just, you know, the cigarette smoking man from X-Files. And so, just putting it out there, in case you need it, E.T. is a corrective for the X-Files.
They loved it. It was really fun. And it was a different kind of alien movie than you've been indoctrinating them on. So
oh man, when we watch Signs, it's going to be intense.
Signs is so good.
Oh, yeah.
So good. That's my favorite. Well, I like that one, and I've always loved Contact.
Mm-hmm. I love Contact
too. That
too.
one's a good one too.
Very different. All these are very different.
Yeah.
Like genres of alien, which is cool. But the kids did really get a kick out of seeing Yoda in E.T. and kind of having universes collide a little bit. And then I had to tell them that actually E.T. is in the prequels of Star Wars too. And they were like blown away. And then I told them it's possible that E.T., like, think about it. He can control things with his mind.
Right.
He could be a Jedi. You never know. So
many deep questions.
I know, but when worlds collide like that, it can be really fun.
Oh my gosh, so fun. Speaking of deep questions, today's a Q&A episode.
Yes.
We're going deep.
Oh, I'm excited.
On a couple of these. There's a couple of these questions that are doozies.
Yeah.
It's like, oof, you guys are coming at me hard with these. We posted a Q&A slide on Instagram stories and asked you to ask us questions that you have for specifically trips that are coming up in 2026 or things you might want to know for 2026 national park travel. Mm-hmm. So that's where all these questions are coming from. Be sure you're following us on Instagram and Facebook at Dirt in My Shoes, so that you can take part in these. If you have a question you want to ask, that's where I'm pulling them from. So, John, you ready to get into the deep stuff?
So ready.
Okay.
And everybody probably realizes that this the details and the helpful information may or may not be my strong suit.
Oh, that reminds me. We got a comment the other day on one of the episodes, and it was like, Ash, I really like your trip planning advice and stuff. Like, you're super helpful. But if not for John, I would be falling asleep. Literally. So there you go.
Oh, great.
I was like, gee, thanks. Tell me how you really feel.
I'm like the guy in the back of history class that just like makes fart noises every once in a while just to keep everybody away.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, first question comes from Juliana. And I have to say, since these are from Instagram, I took just part of your Instagram handle if it looks like a name. Some of them it's kind of just your Instagram handle because I'm like, I don't know what your name is.
To give you a little bit of an anonymity.
Yeah.
So we're not outing you on the podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
In case your question is stupid.
I didn't put any stupid questions in here. I ignored those ones. Just kidding. Okay. I would really love to know which are the parks that are really worthy camping inside of the park and the ones that it's not really necessary. So she goes into a little more detail and says, like, she was pretty frustrated that they paid a ton of money to stay in Grand Teton National Park in an actual campground when there actually is a lot of dispersed camping right outside that's free. Mm-hmm. Why would you pay? It is expensive. It's like $65 a night now. Grand Teton is out of control. Right. They're camping. It used to be when I was a park ranger there, it was around 30, and even that was high for the national parks. Mm-hmm. But now it's like $65.
What
That's
a deal.
Crazy.
Oh, that's just
no, not a deal.
That was the opposite of your meaning. Is that it's even more expensive.
$65, a night. Okay, so I get where she's coming from. You are paying for flush toilets, which I think to some people does make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Running water,
But it is true. There are some parks where it's like, it really doesn't matter if you're in the park or outside of the park. If you do want to save the money somewhere else, if you want an alternative, for lodging, you want to save that way. Grand Teton is one of those parks. But honestly, to answer your question, I would say almost every park you can stay in a gateway town over staying in the park. Mm-hmm. I write my itineraries, the self-guided tours that I do on dirtandmyshoes.com. Go check them out if you haven't. But I write those out of gateway towns almost every time. I'm trying to think of one. I don't think I even have one.
Because you almost can't, because sometimes it's too competitive nowadays to expect everybody to have camping reservations in the park or lodging reservations in the park. Yeah,
well, and there are gateway towns that are good enough, and we can make it work from there. You can save a bunch of money. You don't have to deal with all of the crazy, competitive lodging in the parks. I also, in the itinerary, I say, but if you want to be in the park, here's where I'd stay. So if you are wanting to do that and you can, then that option is there as well. But most of the time, I do just write them outside of my favorite gateway towns. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty particular about which gateway towns. So not all gateway towns to the national parks are created equal. There are some that I don't stay in because they're too far away or it's going to be too much driving. So I'm really of the feeling that you can stay in a gateway town almost all the time.
Right. And to Juliana's defense, Grand Teton's gateway town is so close.
Yeah.
Jackson is so close to everything.
Yeah.
And another park that she mentioned kind of in her comment, Yellowstone. Yellowstone is really large. And so staying in the park sometimes has some real sweet benefits.
But also, if you stay in the park in the wrong place in Yellowstone, you're hours away from stuff.
It's true. So if you want to do the stuff in the south and you're staying up in Mammoth, then it's there's
4 hours to the bottom of Yellowstone from there, know?
Yeah.
And so that's what we help you with in the itinerary. If you're really just I don't know. That's what I can help you with, because I say, the itinerary is written out of this gateway town. But then as the days of the itinerary go on, I say, here's where I would stay, a general area. Okay, so if we're doing day 2 of the Yellowstone itinerary and I say, if you want to, you can stay in West Yellowstone, or you could stay in, I don't know, Madison. I'm just making this up, but you know what I mean? So I'll give you like an idea of where in the park you might want to be or outside of the park to make it work. And then we give you lodging guides that tell you like more specifically, this is where, like, this is the exact hotel that I like.
Right.
Type of thing. So it filters it down. So you have lots of options, but I tell you, this is where you're going to want to be for the best results, both
Absolutely.
in the park and outside of the park.
And depending on the park, which is add another complicating factor, some national parks have like totally separate sides of the park.
Yeah.
And so depending on the season, like Glacier,
Yeah.
if you're going in June and the going to the Sun Road hasn't opened up, if you're staying in the park on the west side and you want to see the east side, you're going to have a really long drive ahead of you.
Yeah, well, and to that point, so there are some parks, and to answer this question maybe little more specifically for her, there are some parks that it is better to be just like, if not in the park, super, super, super close to the park, like walking distance. Zion, for example. If you are not staying in Zion, you don't want to be further out than Springdale. Some people fight me on this. I get it. We've lived down in that area, and maybe the drive doesn't matter to you, but it's so hard to get parking that the closer you can be, the better.
Well, it's not even necessarily with Zion, the drive. It's the competitive nature of the line that leads to the park, basically.
If you don't have to go through the entrance station, that makes a big difference in this park. So there are some parks like that. And then there are some parks where I don't recommend staying in one place the whole time. You mentioned Glacier. That's one of those where it's like, we don't ever stay in one place for the full trip. We move. And that's because that's just the nature of Glacier National Park. There's not like one good place to base your whole trip out of if you want to see the whole park. So that's reflected in the itinerary. I tell you, here's where we stay for these nights. Here's where we stay for these nights, and then you can decide if you want to be more in the park or outside of the park from those general areas. That's fine. But there are some parks like that where it's like, this one, like, really, really isn't good for one base camp.
Right.
So Glacier is one of those.
So let's give a few national parks that are probably, we wouldn't stay in the gateway town, or maybe some that were like, maybe not a big deal.
Yeah. So parks that I always try to stay inside the boundaries in a national park, campground, or lodge are Sequoia Kings, which we will talk about later in this episode, so because someone had a question specifically about this. Sequoia Kings, Crater Lake, Death Valley, Big Bend, Grand Canyon, Mesa Verde, and Great Sand Dunes. And those ones, as I was looking, I was like, you know what? Those are the ones where if we're going to that park, we stay in that park.
Right.
And not because we always have, because we started with the gateway towns and thought, oof, this drive-in sucks.
Yes.
Don't want to do that again.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of those drives might not even look long on the map. But
Are we
holy
thinking
smokes.
Mesa Verde? That's one that we have recently switched to. We stay in the lodge when we go to Mesa Verde because even the campground for me it's so much extra driving to stay in the in-park campground closer to the entrance. And I just don't like it. I don't like that drive.
It's not the worst drive. You mentioned Sequoia Kings.
That is the worst drive. I feel very passionately about not staying outside of the parks on this one.
Oh my gosh. By the time you're halfway up from Three Rivers, it's like you just want to like just drive off the side of the road. Especially if I'm doing it for like 3 days in a row. You're just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
I never want to do that anymore. So hopefully that gives you an idea. But those parks we just listed really are the ones that I'm like, I stay in this park every time. I went through the list of all the parks we've been through and I'm like, no, all the other ones, we will stay outside of the park sometimes in a gateway town. And it works great.
Yeah, some of the parks that I thought of. But well, she mentioned the dispersed camping. I was like, Grand Canyon is a great one for dispersed camping.
It is, actually. And that's true. We will stay in Tucson for the South Rim. No problem. I guess with Grand Canyon, I was thinking Williams, Flagstaff, Jacob Lake.
Right.
Those are the main gateway towns to Grand Canyon. And people are always like, why don't you stay there? I'm like, because it takes an hour to get to the Grand Canyon from those, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half from Flagstaff, and it's just like, no thanks, not worth it.
Exactly.
And we have done that. We stayed in Williams once, and we were like, we did that for 2 days, and then we moved to Tucson.
Yep.
Because we wanted to be closer. So yeah, there are some instances where it's like, yes, we pretty much always stay in the park when we're here. So thank you for the question, Juliana. Hopefully that gives you some ideas.
We covered a lot of ground there.
Oof, I know. But the itineraries, if I have an itinerary for that park, I tell you what I would do specifically, where I would stay.
Then you don't have to worry about inefficient driving.
Yeah. And that's why I really encourage people to get their itineraries early rather than waiting until your trip is, 2 weeks away or whatever. Because I help walk you through all that stuff that you need to do way further in advance than your trip. So it sets you up better if you can get the itinerary earlier. And you have updates. Like I update the PDF once a year, but I do weekly updates during the peak season. And you always have access to those with your itinerary. So it doesn't matter when you purchase it because you're going to get all the updates regardless.
Right.
So why not purchase it early so that you can
get your updates or figure out where you can set up your logistics basically.
Yeah, I help you set up all the logistics of the trip too. So anyway, that's me telling you to go get the itinerary a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Because I just answer that question for you easily.
For our next question, it comes to us from Bert. I know that reservations for national park campsites and lodging are very hard to get. And so my question is this. If you wanted to have a reservation for, let's say, September 1st, instead of trying to call on March 1st with everybody else, could you call on February 16th and book up to 14 days to include September 1st? Or do you have to wait until the entire booking is available when you call? So basically, he's trying to work around the system.
Yeah. So a couple of things that I think deserve clarification. A lot of people get confused around making reservations on Recreation.gov. So firstly, he talks about calling. I never call. That is the slowest, worst way to try to get reservations unless like the date's already been opened up.
Right.
And it's not competitive anymore.
Right. Because if you're on Recreation.gov, you're like competing with like you've got like a second to 2 seconds sometimes to get your click in.
Yeah, you don't have time to go through the calling
versus
tree.
Like ringing through the phone menu. It's like, oh my gosh, you're never going to get through on time.
Yeah, so don't call. I also actually have noticed that the Recreation.gov app is delayed. It's not as fast as being on your desktop computer. And so sometimes you'll get on the app and it will still say that things are available. Not, they're gone. And so you're trying and you're like, it says it's available. And it's like, nope, they were snatched up 5 minutes ago. It just hasn't updated yet. So I don't use the app either.
Right.
I actually always use my computer on recreation.gov so that I can get on there and have the fastest, most likely way of getting what I need. So that's what I do. And then the other thing that I want to clarify that he wrote in there is, I think this is a common mistake that people make as well, is that you don't actually have to wait for all of your dates to open up. So if you're wanting to go from, you're wanting to camp in Glacier from July 5th through the 10th, let's say, you don't have to wait until the 10th is open on the rolling basis that they release it on. So a lot of people get confused by that. If you want multiple days in the park, your release date is the first date that you need for your trip. So if it's July 5th through the 10th, you're going to want to be online 6 months before July 5th.
Right.
You don't wait until July 10th and that opening. Okay. So what happens is when you get on there, as long as the first date of your trip is open for reservation taking, then you can reserve up to, for each park it's different, but let's say standard is about 14 days. So you can reserve up to 14 days past the first date that you want. So if you're going the 5th through the 10th, you're going to get on Recreation.gov, 6 months before July 5th, and then you can reserve all the dates you need up to the 10th.
Right.
You can reserve all those at once. You don't have to get on every day and try to get the remaining days. You don't have to wait till the 10th opens up to get the whole thing. You can get on the 5th, and you can get up to 14 days past the 5th.
Right.
When that date opens up. So a lot of people get confused by that. So I just want to clarify that, because in his question, there are a few things that I'm like, nope, that's not how it works.
Right. And if you did wait till the last day, like so few things would be open, you'd be so frustrated.
Oh, if you wait till the last day, you're not getting what you need.
Right.
Because everybody's already snatched up those dates because they opened before your date that you came. So.
And that frustration probably breeds the strategy that he is then bringing up, which is like, okay, I can't get what I need, so maybe what I should do, so if I'm going on July 5th, what I should do is maybe I should get on 2 weeks before July 5th to reserve my 2 weeks there, and that way, and then later I'll just...
But that doesn't work, because then you only get the 5th. You have to go, so this is what people do.
Yeah.
If you're trying to bypass the system, you're going 6 months and 2 weeks before the last day that you need.
Mm-hmm.
So the 10th. So 6 months and then 2 weeks, so that you can get, what are you getting? You're getting like June, 26th through July 10th.
Right.
So that you can get your whole dates at that tail end of the 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting on 2 weeks early to snatch up a whole bunch of dates that you're not going to use, just in an effort to get, all the way out to those dates that haven't been released yet.
Right.
You're snatching up everything else to get to the dates that haven't been released yet, so that you don't have to deal with trying to get them when they actually release.
Right.
This would be a lot easier on YouTube with my computer for those of you that watch me on YouTube.
Right. Exactly.
If I could show you, it would make more sense, but hopefully that at least makes some sense. So do people do this? Yes, they do. And for some of these parks, you will get on there and you will see it. You'll be like, okay, I'm here right at the right time. I'm doing exactly what I should be doing. Why are all the campsites already taken?
Mm-hmm.
Everything's already gone. It's because people are being dishonest.
It's
scooping up dates that they're not actually going to use in an effort to bypass the system and get access to the later dates that haven't opened up yet.
Right.
So I personally think it's cheating, and I don't operate my life that way. And so I don't try to get reservations that way. Would it be easier sometimes if I did that? Sure. Yeah. Right. But I do think it's dishonest to block out dates you for sure know you're not going to use, to screw everybody else over who really want those dates, and it's important to them, and it's an unforgettable trip for them, and they can't get what they need because you blocked it all off.
Right.
So I personally am on Recreation.gov all the time. Mm-hmm. We make so many park reservations every year. So many, more than anybody else.
Some you don't even need, Ash.
I know. When I'm doing the YouTube videos and I'm showing you how to get reservations, I'm showing you reservations I don't need. And I'm still able to get them. Okay, right. So that's the point. It's like, I do believe that what goes around comes around. I believe karma is the thing. And so I don't cheat to get my reservations.
Right.
I follow the system. 95% of the time I'm able to get what I need. Do I have a lot of practice? Yeah. But you can practice. If it's really important to you to get what you want, go on recreation.gov a month early and practice with working the website and getting used to how fast you have to click and how fast things go, and familiarize yourself with it. And do it for dates that don't matter. And then you can release them at the end if you get them. And if you don't get them, you'll have learned something to try next time.
Right. And a lot of times what we have to do for these super competitive parks is we give ourselves kind of a range of days that we can make work for our trip. And we also kind of get into the campsites and things like that and kind of pick out 3 or 4 different sites that could work for us.
And John and I both have Recreation.gov accounts. So we're both trying at the same time to get these campsites. And in effect, we're competing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times he'll get one and I won't, or I'll get one and he won't, but we only need one, so that works. So every person in your group who's going to be there, who's 18 or older, should make an account and get in there and try at the same time.
Right.
And you have to be there right when they open. You can't even be 1 minute later. You have to be there exactly at the perfect moment
Mm-hmm.
to click that book button, or you probably won't get a lot of these. So that's why I say, like, practice, be flexible with your dates. The other cool thing that Recreation.gov does is they have an alert setting. You can set an alert for specific campground and specific dates. If you're not flexible, maybe you only have certain days you can take off from work or whatever, you can put those into the alerts and set an alert, and then Recreation.gov will email you as soon as those dates pop up. If
Mhm.
someone cancels those dates, then you can hurry and run over there and snatch it up. And we've gotten stuff that way too.
Right.
It's a little scarier because a lot of times that's a more last minute solution.
Exactly.
So in that case, a lot of times we do already have other reservations in place, but they're refundable. And then I'm just kind of watching the alerts like, okay, can I get something in the park still? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but it's worked out fine for us. We're fine.
Exactly.
So do I try to bypass the system? No. And I would never recommend to somebody else to do that
Right.
because it does feel skeevy and it is cheating. And you are blocking off dates that other people need purposefully, knowing you're not going to use them. Even if you cancel them later, you've still screwed over the people who were there right then at the right time to get them and they couldn't.
Right.
So we don't do that here at Dirt in My Shoes. I have a pretty strong stance on that.
Yep. And therefore, we don't recommend anyone that listens to us does it either.
Nope.
Instead, we want to give you the tools necessary so that you can just get what you need.
Yeah,
And that's
and then you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
So we have a master reservation list. If you go to dirtinmyshoes.com/list, and it's basically just a giant spreadsheet that has all 63 national parks and what reservations you need for that park and where to get those reservations and how far in advance you need to make those reservations.
Mm-hmm.
So go sign up for that. It's free, but it's really helpful because it's like you just look up the park and you say, oh, okay, I want to camp in this park. Here's my options. Here's when the sites open up 6 months in advance or whatever. And then you need to get on there and do that. And like I said, practice.
Exactly.
I've got lots of practice and now I can pretty much always get them.
Yep. And we have video walkthroughs as well, showing people how to do it.
Yeah, and if it's an entrance reservation instead of a campground or something, the entrance reservations, I do record myself getting those, and I give you the recording with the itinerary purchase. So
Right.
That's another way if you want to see what I do. But that's very applicable, too, to camping if you're trying to get that on Recreation.gov. The process is mostly the same. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Next question. What are your favorite meals and snacks to bring on the trails and pack for the parks? That's from Amy. Talking about food. We love food.
Love food so much.
Okay, well, I love peanut butter M&Ms or peanut M&Ms, either one.
Sometimes I'm surprised that those don't just end up in a giant melted ball.
Sometimes they do. I know the parks that are hotter, I'm always so sad because I'm like, I can't bring my chocolate. What am I going to do?
Exactly.
So, yeah, but for hiking, it's like peanut butter M&Ms. We do a lot of dried fruit, granola or protein bars. I just tried G2G bars, and they are so good. They're kind of expensive, but you can get them at Costco, and they're like a whole meal, but they taste like a cookie, like a peanut butter chocolate chip cookie. My favorite ones are the peanut butter chocolate chip coconut, I think is what they are. They're so good.
I don't eat Ash's G2G bars. I think she's being a little bit protective of them, and so I haven't really had access to
You
them.
could, but you just have to give me a heads up so I buy more next time. Those are so good though. So that's like my latest kick. I love those.
Yeah.
And they're like clean eating too. I'm trying to do more clean eating and like less processed food. So they're win-win.
Yeah. The next one is another Costco buy that you get. You get the applesauce packets for us to take.
Yep, I like those. Just the squeezable ones that you don't need spoons for. We hike with those all the time.
Yeah.
Jerky, pistachios. I like to get the shelled pistachios, so I don't have to. Well, because food waste. on the trail. You don't, I hate when people just leave their sunflower seeds and pistachio shells and stuff like that on the trail.
I think a very common thing that people say is, oh, it's nature, it'll biodegrade, right? But when you have 1 million people all eating apples or pistachios or sunflower seeds along the trail, and they just kind of discard them along the side, that stuff would build up so fast.
It doesn't biodegrade as fast as you think. And then plus you're feeding the creatures that live there that then become dependent on human food.
Ugh, banana peels on the side of the trails.
Yeah.
So gross sometimes.
I know. When we were at Great Sand Dunes, somebody had left I think it was a banana peel in the sand while we were hiking up High Dune. And I was like, dude, what do you think's going to happen with that? Like, it's just going to sit here forever.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing for it to degrade into. So, and how annoying that I have to pick up your slimy banana peel that you couldn't be bothered to take down the trail with you.
But he saw on a Planet Earth movie or something like that a dung beetle rolled elephant dung like 50 miles.
There's no dung beetles up there.
So obviously they're going to do that with a banana peel.
Yeah. So moral of the story is I like the pistachios that are already shell off.
Yes.
It's just way easier to eat anyway. For lunches, we do like homemade Lunchables. We'll do like salami and cheese with crackers, stuff like that. We do like hummus and pita sandwiches with cucumbers and carrots. PB&J, always a staple. Makes me sad. I'm always like, do we have to? But it makes a lot of sense.
It's so good. It's so easy to try.
So easy.
I think Ash has, in her opinion, she has eaten her life's quota of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
I have. I've had so many. I don't want them anymore. But then we always default into it. We'll be at the store and we'll be like, PB&J, yeah.
Because it's such a good travel food. If the pioneers crossing the plains were able to pack peanut butter and jelly.
Were they?
They would have.
If they could have, they would.
They could have. They would have. And they would have been that would have been the best travel food.
That's like, that feels like poor people. Like, okay, you know how like Dave Ramsey talks, maybe you guys aren't Dave Ramsey people, but he talks about how when they were broke, he ate tuna fish sandwiches every day. And now he can't like smell tuna fish without reminding him of being broke and poor, and it makes him sad and he can't eat them. That's what PB&J feels like for me. It's like we've had so many years of being poor. And John, when he was working not in Dirt My Shoes, his job before this, he kept a loaf of bread with peanut butter and jelly in his desk. And that's what he ate every day for lunch. And it's just like, it reminds me of sadder times.
Let me tell you something. That loaf of bread did not go when it's that easily accessible to you at work. I don't know how people that like go to work and their job just like offers them bowls of cereal and food for free all the time, like at tech companies. I went through a loaf of bread real fast.
He's just snacking on
Ash is
bread.
like, where did that loaf of bread go?
I'm like, we're poor. we can't afford more bread. So anyway, yeah, we do a lot of PB&J still, much to my dismay. Usually we eat out for one meal a day, never breakfast, usually dinner, because we try things so that we can tell you what we like and not. We have a dining guide that goes with the itineraries. So we'll try one restaurant a day. But what we've started doing actually is eating at that restaurant during lunch because it's cheaper. A lot of times you don't need reservations. It's less busy. So a lot of times we'll do like our big meal for lunch, and then we'll go out and we'll go hiking or go to a viewpoint or something during dinner when everybody else is gone.
Right.
And it's so lovely. And so a lot of times we'll have like our big lunch meal at a restaurant, and then we'll eat our PB&J for dinner at a viewpoint.
Right. And
PB&J feels a little bit better when you're looking down on Yosemite and eating it. You know, it's like, okay, fine.
Exactly.
I can do that.
Also, Ash just described the strategy behind the early bird dinners and
I know.
and retirement.
We are.
That's what he just described.
It works so well though, because then everybody's gone. The parks, like people are not out on the trails during dinner time. So
it's true.
We love that time of night, honestly. So that's a new strategy we've been doing over the last few years that I will for sure continue.
There's a lot of people listening that's like, my dad thought about that strategy.
I know.
What?
It's not you. That's we're still in our 30s, so we do feel a little bit too young.
There's a lot
for
of
the
people
early
that are like,
birding.
I remember when our kids were that age.
Yeah.
When we walk into the restaurant with
Yeah.
them.
Oh, I love it. We love the early bird crowd. That's our preferred crowd at this time of life.
Exactly. They're so
Okay.
great.
So next question. Recommendations for a January trip to Death Valley. Camping at Furnace Creek. Can't wait. This is from Letters.
Nice.
Obviously, I just took a part of her Instagram handle.
I love Death Valley
We
in
love
January.
Death Valley. I know. We're
It's-
obsessed with Death Valley.
It's so much fun. But we do have full podcast episodes about Death Valley. And so those are episodes number 92 and 94. If you want to kind of get all of our recommendations for exploring Death Valley, plus if you want to learn a whole bunch of fun facts about that place.
Yeah. Yep. We walk you through that. You can also go to dirtandmyshoes.com/podcast. And then if you scroll down, we have all the podcast episodes categorized by park.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you can just click on Death Valley and you'll see the exploring and the fun facts there. But then there's also some where we mention Death Valley and other capacities.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a winter road trip one that it's part of, scariest roads in the parks. Death Valley was mentioned in that one. So anyway, you can see other episodes too that you might want to listen to that also mention Death Valley.
Right.
We also have a bunch of articles that you can look at on Dirt in My Shoes. I know we have a 10 Things You Can't Miss article for Death Valley that walks you through what you definitely don't want to miss.
Right.
So lots of good stuff to do there, though. Great question.
Love Death
Such
Valley.
a cool park.
All
That's
right.
probably my top choice for a winter park, if I can pick one.
Oh, it's so great. Only thing it's missing is a beach.
Yeah.
It's plenty warm, but you have lots of good hiking.
But what a surprise. What a surprise of how cool that park is. So
All right, the next question comes to us from Alex. I love a hidden gem. What are some of your favorite hidden gems in Yellowstone or the Tetons? Ooh.
don't we all love hidden gems?
Yes, exactly. That for a long time was like when we were first starting Dirt in My Shoes, hidden gem was like the greatest search term.
Everybody wants
And then
hidden
all of a
gems.
sudden, and then everything caught on, and everyone on the internet was like, this is a hidden gem. This is a hidden gem. Or
I
like,
know.
it's
I'm
so
like, that's
funny.
not a hidden gem. You can drive to it in 5 minutes from the entrance station.
I know.
Come on, people. Have standards.
Exactly.
Okay, Alex. So in my national park trip itineraries, a lot of the parks that I have itineraries for have what I call our secret hikes.
Mm-hmm.
Yellowstone and Grand Teton both have a secret hike included in the itinerary,
Mm-hmm.
and they're pretty darn cool, and they'll get you off the beaten path. Their secret hikes are essentially like, it's not like you can't find them anywhere else. It's not like I'm like gatekeeping that information, but it is, they are things that you're not going to find on the park map.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know what you're looking for to
Right.
be able to know that they're even there. So go check out those itineraries if you want. I know a lot of times the reviews I get back on the itineraries is people are like, the secret hike was my favorite thing we did the whole week,
Right.
especially for Glacier. People love that one. That one's so epic.
It is so cool.
So if you're looking for secret hikes, we've got one in Great Smokies, Grand Canyon, Glacier, Yellowstone, Tetons. Anyway, there's some parks that have them.
Mm-hmm.
So check that out. Now, I was wondering if I was going to say something. So in Grand Teton, I worked as a park ranger in Grand Teton, and I've also grown up going to Grand Teton every year with my family. So that park is my favorite. It's really special to me. I've been almost everywhere at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There's one hike in this park that I am obsessed with. I love it so much, and it's a secret hike. Grand Teton has a lot of secret hikes.
Has a lot. Uh-huh.
But there's one in particular that I absolutely love. It's not Delta Lake. Newsflash, Delta Lake is not a hidden gem anymore. Everybody goes there.
Right.
You can find it all over Instagram. All these people are like, it's a secret. It used to be, but it's not anymore. So am I going to give you the name? Yes, I am.
Ooh, I don't think people realize how close. I think the notes were pretty tentative on that. So here she goes. This is a big deal.
All right. Here we go. So my favorite secret hike in Grand Teton is Hanging Canyon to Lake of the Crags. So that's what you need to look up if you want. It's a hard hike. It's very challenging. It's long, but holy
Incredible.
smokes. Yeah.
Incredible.
It's
Oh my
amazing.
gosh.
So there you go. I will not be repeating that. But if you're looking for a really good secret hike in Grand Teton, that's hard. Now, the secret hikes in my itineraries are not hard.
Right.
They're hikes that everybody can do.
Mm-hmm.
They're in line with the other hikes that I include on my itineraries, which are typically 3 miles or less, fairly easy, so that you can take your family and stuff on them.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is not categorized as that, which is why it's not on my itinerary.
And
But
now
there
that
you
you
go.
said it, it's going to be all over
I know, and I'm
Instagram.
feeling sad. Don't share it. Just kidding. But I mean, it is on all trails. So that's the place to look. But just a lot of people just don't know what they're looking for. They don't realize what it is. So,
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is for like smaller stops at Grand Teton, things like Meaner's Ferry or the Lawrence Rockefeller Preserve, hiking into the backcountry. There's some really great trails. That's all it takes, I think, to feel like you found a hidden gem.
Yeah.
There's some smaller spots that aren't hard to get to. There's trails that not a lot of people hike. If you're not on like the Cascade Paintbrush Loop,
Jenny Lake.
yeah, a lot of things outside of that are going to feel like, wow, we're so lucky we're seeing this,
Mm-hmm.
and we're kind of by ourselves here.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways to feel like you found a hidden gem. I was thinking about Yellowstone. We do have a secret hike for Yellowstone
Mm-hmm.
in the itinerary. We've tried to find other really like cool secret spaces, and it's like, wah, wah, like not that cool. But the culture of Yellowstone really is, I mean, we kind of poke fun sometimes, but Yellowstone is more the perfect park where if you go longer than a mile, you have lost pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
You really have. I mean, that is how Yellowstone is.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, like to feel like you found a hidden gem, I would just hit the trail. I'd go a little bit further than the main stuff that everybody is there to see.
Mm-hmm.
We love the Lamar River Trail. John, you love that one.
Oh my gosh. I've never been surrounded slightly scarily by a herd of buffalo.
Every time.
Not-
Every time we go on that trail.
And not because we were like trying to get a selfie or something cool with a buffalo. It's just like we were on this trail, and then like you come up over a ridge, from being maybe down a little bit lower, the trail rises, and then all of a sudden you're like
Wah!
270 degrees around you of, buffalo herd, and you're like, I'm just going to slowly back up. But slowly, you didn't see me,
There's sometimes where it's like, well, didn't make it very far today.
Yep, exactly.
You never know how far you're going to make it on that trail, but that's the fun of it.
Yeah,
So, and
that's
then
a good one.
the Slough Creek area for wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Sheep Eater Cliffs is a really cool picnic area. If you stay further in the south by like Moose Falls, Lewis Lake, stuff like that, a lot of that's really quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
some really good options. But
the park is huge. You can always find, like you said, if you get on the trail, you leave the park loop road.
Yeah, there's like side roads you can drive that are one way only.
There's so many
off
spots
the park
that you
loop
can-
road.
So many spots that you can find some solitude and be by yourself. It's great.
Yep. So we love getting away from the crowds, though. I totally understand that sentiment. Next question. Is it smart to visit the North and South Dakota parks in the same trip? Do you have enough time to do everything? This is from Brooke.
Good question. And we've done the Dakotas all in one trip.
Multiple times.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's awesome. We love doing that.
Here's the thing. When else would you go to North Dakota than if you're already in South Dakota?
I know, it's true. It's like if you're it's kind of like my parents. We were just in the neighborhood.
Right.
You're never just in the neighborhood of North Dakota. And so
and Teddy Roosevelt National Park is so cool. I love that national park. But the thing is it's not that far from all the South Dakota stuff that you're going to want to do.
no,
It's
not that bad.
like 4 hours. So yeah, we do it all at a time. We have a South Dakota itinerary on Dirt in My Shoes that is 5 days, and it covers Wind Cave, Badlands, Mount Rushmore, Custer State Park, all of that, plus Devil's Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could add 2 more days to that, and go up to Theodore Roosevelt
Mhm.
in North Dakota easily.
Yeah.
So we've done that trip multiple times. Usually we will make the time to drive up to Teddy Roosevelt while we're already in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Or especially Devil's Tower, because it's kind of on the way.
Yeah. It's so cool. But also, like, in terms of the Badlands, it's really neat to see the difference between South Dakota Badlands and the North Dakota Badlands.
Yeah,
They're
that's true.
very different parks, even though they're both like Badlands parks.
It's true.
It's really cool.
I love them both. I love them all. That
Mhm.
area is one of my favorite areas of the country for national parks.
Yeah.
So.
All right. The next question comes to us from Joyce. Looking for chill canoe trip ideas with no rapids. I've done the Green through Canyonlands twice. So,
The Green River through Canyonlands is probably
one of my favorite
yeah,
things.
I was gonna say that's probably if you're looking for a chill canoe trip, that probably would be our top choice.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's probably I did that as a Boy Scout and it has stuck with me my whole life.
Yeah.
I love that trip. And we're fingers crossed doing that with our boys next year.
Yeah.
So, which Ash is a bit nervous about, which is
No,
why
I'm okay with that one's chill. I can do that one.
yes, but our kids are in swimming lessons, most likely just for
As
that.
we speak, our kids are in swim lessons. So
Oh man, we haven't been to the Voyageurs National Park yet, which is famous for canoeing.
yeah, I mean, I would say if you're looking for a canoeing park, Voyageurs is the best one.
Mhm.
It's the top. It's the cream of the crop because that's the whole point of Voyageurs.
Right.
That's what they were. That's who they were.
Right. Exactly.
And that's what the park celebrates and protects. So if you haven't looked into Voyageurs, I would start there
Mhm.
because I think that would just be like the best of the best that you could do, probably.
Yeah.
We
think
haven't
so.
been there. We're waiting for our kids to get a little older.
Yeah.
'Cause they're not really fun to take on canoes because they don't paddle. They're just dead weight.
Which, to her point, like if she's looking for a river trip where like the water moves you and you're not doing a lot of the work to move you, you can paddle every once in a while. The Green River is kind of like that.
Yeah.
Voyageurs, you'll have to move yourself. But there are some other cool national parks that have like canoe trails, like the Everglades.
Everglades has a lot of canoe trails and they're called chickies
Mm-hmm.
for overnighting. So it's basically like a platform that you can sleep on so that you're not down by the alligators.
Uh-huh.
But
I love it. Just a deck out in the middle of a giant,
an elevated
river of
deck.
grass.
Yep. They have those in Everglades. We just went to Congaree this year. You can do overnighters on Cedar Creek, which I think would be awesome. We didn't do an overnighter, but we loved it.
Yeah.
So
Super cool. I had a couple of ideas. Outside of Great Smoky Mountains in Townsend, you can go tubing on some of the rivers there.
that's not a canoe trip, John.
Yeah, but you could canoe it day trip.
No, it takes like 1 hour.
Yeah.
But it's really
you could do it 3 times.
Bad idea. She's looking for real canoe trips.
Fine.
Oh, you know what I didn't think of? How silly of me. I worked in a kayaking park,
Yeah, you did.
Glacier Bay.
It's true.
We did kayak trips all the time there.
Mhm.
And that's very popular to get. You can put your kayak on the day boat that
Mhm.
goes up the bay and they will drop you off wherever you want and you camp wherever you want and you just
So
paddle
cool.
around.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to do that, down closer to the visitor center where I worked, there's also islands that you can paddle around back in there and you can camp wherever.
Mhm.
You just need to get the permit, but that's a cool option too. Definitely. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Go to Glacier Bay. Everybody go to Glacier Bay.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So
Last
that was
one-
up in Alaska.
Last one I thought about was there's a scenic route in through the Tetons that you can kind of do on the Snake. My dad was a canoe guide in the Tetons when he was younger, and that's what he did.
There's a scenic part and there's a rapids part. And
Go on the right one.
yeah. The scenic part isn't long enough for you to camp though. It would just be a long day.
Yeah.
But still, beautiful.
All right, next question. I thought this one was funny. This is from Lindsay. How do you fit so much travel in a year? Do you homeschool?
Nope. We just take our kids out of school.
we kind of home home preschooled.
No, we don't homeschool. Yeah.
That's about it.
No, we're gone pretty much all the months of the summer.
Yeah.
back to back. We pack that summer full of stuff. And then during the year, usually if the kids have a break, we will use that break and then piggyback, usually stay a few more days. So they miss some school, but we'll stay out in the parks for a couple weeks at a time, a few times during the school year.
The world would not be better if I homeschooled my children.
Our kids say it's absolutely out of the question. They do not want mom teaching them. But they learn so much while we're out in the parks. And that's why I feel okay with it. Because I'm like, well, you can learn about volcanoes in school, or you can go to Hawaii and see the volcano erupt. So there's pros and cons to both, but we're okay with it for now. The kids are starting to fight back now that they're older, I think, and missing more school isn't fun. So we'll have to adjust, I think.
Okay, this next question comes from Jen. Alaska 2026. We will be on land for 3-ish weeks. Best national parks for this trip without cramming too much?
So I need more information. This is not enough information for me to answer as well as I'd like to. But you saying we'll be on land for 3 weeks makes it sound like you're probably doing a cruise first or, before or after. And so that would kind of determine, I guess, what parks I would recommend doing while you're not on the cruise. But we have an article on Dirt in My Shoes. If you go in there and you search Alaska, and we can also link it in the show notes with this episode, on how to visit all 8 Alaska national parks in one trip. So the logistics of this are pretty messy, but what it boils down to is there are only 3 parks you can drive to. So if you're going to be on land for 3 weeks and you want to stay on land for those 3 weeks, then the parks you would be looking at are Denali, Kenai Fjords, and Wrangell St. Elias. Those are the ones you can drive to. Everything else, all the other parks require either flights or ferries to get out there. And some of them are quite remote. I think in 3 weeks, though, you can do a fair amount. Because a lot of these more remote ones, it's not like you're staying there. Like, there's not a lot to do unless you're backpacking, or like some of them, like Gates of the Arctic, like you can take a plane out there and have them drop you off. And then they'll come back and get you in a couple days. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how some of those are. So
sounds like a plot of a movie. Like, that's how a movie starts.
It does. So for me, I think, I would prioritize probably the ones you could drive to if you're going to be on land. And then some of the easier ones to get to that do require those flights or ferries, but aren't quite just like so far out there, would be Katmai and Glacier Bay. So I would probably start with those ones. But if you've already done those ones, or, because Glacier Bay, that one's a cruise ship stop sometimes. So maybe you don't need to do that if you're doing a cruise. And then maybe you want to add a different one. I don't know. But that's kind of where I would start.
Yeah.
But go check out that article because I outline it all. And I actually show you how to get to all 8 logistically if you want to know.
Which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Love it.
Alaska can't be beat, man. So exciting.
All right. This one, my favorite name, Bachzilla. I am planning a Mighty 5 trip next year. What would be the best time to go?
Well, we're Utahns, so we're in the Mighty 5 a lot. So if you don't know, Mighty 5 is referring to the Utah National Parks, Zion, Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef, Canyonlands, and Arches. And a lot of people like to do all 5 in one trip. We have a full podcast episode about how to do all 5 in one trip.
Right.
On a road trip, 10-day road trip. So go check that out. We'll link that in the show notes too. People love that episode.
Oh, man.
Such a good one.
Well, that road trip is unbeatable. It's so good.
It's amazing. But for us, we like to go in the fall. I think the fall is the best time to be in those parks. September or October, just if you do go in October, try to not go over Utah's fall break because it gets pretty crazy down there.
It sure does. Yeah.
But there are some parks I don't like to be in during the summer. In Utah, it just gets so dang hot. 100+ degrees all the time. Zion, Arches. No thanks. We've done summer there a few times and it's like never again.
Right. That was pretty hot.
But then there are some parks like Bryce Canyon or Capitol Reef that are higher elevation and colder. And so those ones really are better in the summer because when you start getting into the off season, it gets snowy and closures and stuff like that. So I have found September, October is usually the sweet spot where you can get to all 5 and pretty much everything is open in all of them. And the weather is typically pretty good in all of them at that time of year as well.
Sometimes even sweater weather.
Yeah, and some of them.
Which is great.
So yeah, September or October.
All right. If this is from Jasmine, if you could give a suggestion for parks according to kids' ages. So we actually do that. We do that multiple times. So on the podcast, episode 122 is for teenagers, parks we recommend for teenagers. Episode 49 is for young kids and toddlers. Episode 57 is tips for hiking with kids. And we will be doing a middle schooler episode in the future.
Yep. So we'll link all those in the show notes too. So you can take a look if you have specific kids' ages you're trying to cater to.
Yeah.
Though we will say we take our kids to almost all.
Right.
So, you know, if there's a park you want to go to and you're like, I don't know if it would be good for this age, generally our answer would be like, just go.
Yeah. I think my general rule of thumb is this too expensive for them to forget?
Yeah. Like Alaska.
Exactly.
Some of those parks, it's like, we are waiting until you are never going to forget this.
Exactly.
Okay, from Himes. Is there a best town to stay in for visiting Sequoia Kings? No, don't stay in a town.
Yes.
So Sequoia Kings is one of those, this is in California. Sequoia Kings is pretty close to Yosemite, so a lot of people do both. Well, technically all 3, because Sequoia and Kings Canyon are connected, but they're 2 separate parks, technically.
Right. Right.
So that's what we're referring to. Now, when you look at the map of Sequoia Kings, it's flat. Your map is flat.
Yep.
But the roads going into Sequoia Kings are absolutely not flat.
They're terrible.
They're very steep. It's a lot of climbing up into the highest parts of the mountains where you can access those sequoias. So for us, we never stay in any towns outside of these parks because we hate making that drive multiple times. It takes forever. It's slow going. It ruins your brakes on your car.
And I say it's terrible. It's not terrible if you drive in once and drive out once.
Yeah.
But if it's your daily commute for like 3 to 5 days as you visit this place, you're going to hate it.
Yeah. So we always aim, if we're wanting one base camp in these parks, we aim to stay between General Grant and General Sherman, somewhere along the General's Highway there. So you have some national park options. There's lodges and campgrounds for the national parks, but then also that space in between is Forest Service, and there's some other camping and lodging there, but you have to specifically look for the Forest Service. They're not going to show it as obviously on the National Park Service site.
Right.
So look at both. And then if you want to, we like to drive down into Kings Canyon, down to the Cedar Grove area, which is a drive. And again, you're going down, because you're up so high to get to the sequoia trees. And Kings Canyon, you're dropping down to the bottom. So it's a huge drive. So if we have some extra days and we want to stay down in that area, then we will, but not as this is where we're staying to see both parks.
Right.
I would never do that. So that's one of the parks where it's like, no, no gateway towns for this one.
Exactly. Okay. If you were to backpack in Joshua Tree in the spring, what trail or site would you choose? Angie has
been following Dirt in My Shoes since the very beginning. Shout out to Angie.
We love Angie.
Oh my gosh. You're just like the coolest person. She goes on so many cool adventures.
Yes.
And we're honored to have you here. So I've never done any backpacking in Joshua Tree. We've not even really thought of it. We like rock climbing when we go. But backpacking, actually, there are a lot of people who like to backpack there.
Yeah.
So if we were going to plan a backpacking trip for the first time, I would do the California Hiking and Riding Trail. And I would do it the way that my friend Kristen at Barefoot Theory outlines it. She does a lot of backpacking. She's really smart. So
yeah,
I would follow what she has on her website, and we can link that link for you in the show notes. But it looks really cool. What I didn't realize in Joshua Tree, you have to cache water.
Ooh,
You
that's
can't,
cool.
yeah, because you can't use, I mean, Joshua Tree has very little water in the first place, but you can't filter from like any of the oasis spots or anything like that in the
Interesting.
park. And so you have to go and you have to set up your water caches before you start.
That would be good practice for doing like the PCT or something.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
I know. I was like, wow, I didn't even think about that. So, but that's the one I'd do because I was looking and I was like, yeah, that looks sweet.
Yeah.
And I would want to be up in the area where the Joshua trees are.
Mm-hmm.
So up the Hidden Valley, Jumbo Rock, Skull Rock, kind of that stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this trail goes. So
Sweet. Good advice.
okay. We are visiting Moab in March. Any tips for canyonlands and arches for that time of year? That's from Hawkeye.
Yeah,
I like that.
my favorite, not my favorite Marvel hero, but my favorite MASH character.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking of that.
Yep.
MASH.
Love that.
Yeah.
Do 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 do. That is a reference for our older listeners. Woo.
Yeah. Ooh, but you've been watching it with the kids actually, and they haven't minded it.
No, it's so funny.
My parents used to make me try, my parents used to watch MASH all the time, and every time I'd walk in the room, I'd be like, ugh, blech.
I know.
No thanks.
Hawkeye and Trapper were my favorite. I liked BJ, but Hawkeye and Trapper.
Nice.
So I think we would recommend just visiting the Arches page on the Dirt in My Shoes website and look for the article about the best time to visit. It breaks down what to expect month by month in that area, just in general.
Yeah, we have an article about that. You can see what's going to be open in March and what to expect. March is typically a pretty good time to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You may hit an errant snowstorm or something. That does happen. Especially that's going to affect Canyonlands Island in the sky. You're slightly higher elevation at that point, but nice time to be there.
Yeah.
Really no issues there with a trip in March to Arches. So, but go take a look at that article. We have so many articles on Dirt in My Shoes about trip planning for that park. So
another question that we have a lot of articles regarding is like this next one from House. What are the best national parks for taking your dog? We have a lot of articles on the website. But in general, I would say not Western parks.
Yeah, Western parks are definitely, in general, less dog friendly than the Eastern parks.
And I don't know if that is partly because a lot of the Western parks are the ones that have a lot of bears.
Well, yeah, I mean, because like even Great Smokies has a lot of bears and they hardly have any dog friendly stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it is kind of related to the native wildlife there. I think also, a lot of these parks in the West are super fragile as far as just the landscape in general is very harsh.
Cryptobiotic crust, you don't want, and also some of these landscapes are so harsh that it's actually a lot of dogs, if they got away from you for a moment, might come back injured because the landscapes are pretty harsh. Like I've had children get away from me for a moment and they come back with cactus spurs in them and things like that. And so if your dog is walking around on some of these landscapes, they might get stuff in the pads of their feet.
Or the ground is so hot in some of these parks and stuff like that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of parks in the West that are not dog friendly. There are a couple that are a little more dog friendly, like Great Sand Dunes and the Grand Canyon. Great Sand Dunes, you can take your dog on the dunes, actually. Grand Canyon, anything on the rim, you can have your dog with you.
Nice.
It's worth saying they have to be leashed.
Yeah.
I'm allergic to dogs, so I always appreciate when people are really considerate with their dogs. I don't like it when they're not leashed and when they jump on me and stuff because I'm allergic and I don't appreciate that. So anyway, but so those are a couple in the West. And then I think probably the most dog friendly park I could think of, well, two of them, Acadia and Shenandoah. In the East, they're so dog friendly. Shenandoah, you can take your dog on almost everything. And Acadia is very similar. There are a few restrictions, but some of these parks actually have like junior ranger programs for dogs.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They're called bark rangers. Isn't that cute?
That's pretty cool.
So, but yeah, so a lot of them are okay in the East. New River Gorge, Cuyahoga Valley, places like that typically are okay. But I would just check, Make sure you check before you go, because what a bummer to get there and not be able to do anything because you brought your dog.
Yeah.
Or having to kennel them when you didn't want to or something. So.
And like I said at the beginning of this question, we do have a bunch of articles for a lot of these parks too. So if you want to look that up on the Dirt in My Shoes website. Next question from Crystalline.
This is a big one.
Would visiting Glacier the last week of June be a waste? Or is July 5th through the 15th better? Those are our only choices.
All right. Glacier. So many thoughts.
Phil, I feel like you said that kind of like Newman says to Jerry, or Jerry says to Newman on Seinfeld. Hello, Newman.
Glacier.
Hello, Glacier.
All right. So if it's a first-time visit, I would not go in June. It's not that we don't like Glacier in June.
It's so beautiful in June.
We actually go to Glacier in June fairly often, but we've been to Glacier a million times. So if you want to go in June, you can bike the Going to the Sun Road. A lot of the times they have it open if they're not still plowing that section. You can drive in partially into the park. There's not as many crowds. Like, it's pretty nice. I would say June is actually when we probably see the most wildlife in that park, especially on the east side.
Yeah. And the mountains have a little bit more snow-capped look to them, which they quickly lose once you get into July.
Yeah, so it's not that we don't like June in Glacier. It's just that if you haven't been there before, you won't be able to do a lot of the main things that you're probably wanting to do.
Or your travel, like driving through the park, will be totally screwed up.
Yeah, well, because the Going to the Sun Road, sometimes it opens in June. Usually closer to like the June 20s. Sometimes, most of the time, a lot of the time, it opens during that stretch of June. But then you have years where we got more snow and it doesn't open until, 1 year we went, I don't know if you remember this, our dates were like July 13th through something, and it opened on the 12th of July.
I do remember that.
Do you remember
we were
that?
so stressed.
Yeah, and I was like, we're not going to be able to get in, and we waited till mid-July. This is crazy. So sometimes that happens. I would say if you want to hike, June is not great. You can't everything is snow covered. You have to stick to the lower elevations, which arguably just don't have as good of hiking.
Yeah. And even if they do open up the Going to the Sun Road late June and you're lucky and you can drive through the park, a lot of the hiking trails on that section of road will have too much snow to do. And so you might even still regret going in June, even if that road is open. Yeah,
we've been before where it did open in June. The Going to the Sun Road opened in June, but the Highline Trail, and this happens every year, but just that year we were like, oh, we didn't even think about that. The Highline Trail didn't open for another 2 weeks after that because it wasn't safe. There was still too much snow and ice.
Or the Hidden Lake Trail.
So, yeah, and Hidden Lake Overlook, anything kind of up there by Logan Pass, a lot of times those trails stay closed weeks after the Going to the Sun Road opens. And a lot of people don't realize that. So if it's a first-time visit, I would take the July dates that you have. I would not go in June.
Yeah.
If you go in July and you're like, we love this park, this is amazing, let's go back, let's do something else, then June is great for your next trip. Like I said, we've done that a lot, and we do go different times of the year. But yeah, I wouldn't go June as a first-time visitor.
No. All right, this next one is from Swan. What are some great things to do in Congaree National Park? And this is perfect timing.
Woohoo! We just released our Congaree episodes. Whoever thought that anybody would release a podcast episode about Congaree? Us.
We would.
We did it. 2 episodes for you. Episodes 130 and 132. Are the Exploring Congaree and Congaree Fun Facts episodes. And they're really good. Go listen to those and we'll walk you through the park and tell you why it's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. We made it to the end. This was pretty long Q&A, but I just wanted to make sure we were hitting everybody's questions for 2026 since it's coming up.
It is.
Very soon. We need to be thinking about these things. By the way, Merry Christmas. I know that's probably front of mind for most everybody right now. But, okay, last question. This is from Nomads. Which parks are the best to visit in November and December in the Southwest? We're going with our new Airstream.
Congratulations.
That's very exciting. November and December in the Southwest is prime time. You can pretty much pick any of them. Because that's the best time to be in those parks.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the start of their season. November, December, January, February, even into March. That's the perfect time to be in the Southwest.
It is. It's true. I love the Southwest. When we were living in our trailer, the Southwest in the wintertime was like our refuge.
I know.
There-
I love being down there.
There's so
at that
many
time.
things. That's why we spent way more time than anybody should ever spend in petrified forest.
I love petrified forests. Okay, so we get iterations of this question a lot. When's the best time to go here? Or I want to go in this month. What parks should I be looking at? So if you go to dirtinmyshoes.com/month,
Mhm.
you can get our national parks by the month list. And that's where I outline everywhere that I think is best during those months of the year. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
It's a free list, so really easy to do. I also have been recording YouTube videos about the best parks by month.
Mm-hmm.
So if you would rather listen, you want to see what the parks look like, you want to hear a little bit more than just looking at a PDF, then go over to YouTube and find those videos, because at this point we're done. I've done every month of the year.
Which is cool.
Yeah, so you can watch those on YouTube, but definitely sign up for that list, dirtinmyshoes.com/month.
Okay. And that's the end of
That was a lot of questions.
That was a lot of questions. Holy smokes. And I do think we
we did it.
waxed a little bit. How does that saying go?
Poetic? We weren't very poetic.
I don't think
So
we
you're-
were poetic.
We were wordy in some of
That's what I
those.
was going for. We
Hey,
probably
We love talking about the national parks. We could go on about the national parks forever.
Yeah,
So
that's
sorry
true.
if we were a little wordy in there, but lots of good questions to prep for 2026.
lots of questions. And now that we've answered some of your questions, we would like to ask you a question. We want to know for your task today, we just want to know whether or not you think this should be a video podcast.
We're thinking about it, you guys. We're thinking of switching to video.
Listen, I've always thought that I have a face for podcast, but I'm not sure I have one for video podcast.
Oh, I know. We're kind of on the fence about it, but I think we're leaning towards possibly doing a video. We got a comment the other day, and the person was like, "We would like you to do a video podcast so that we can see the looks that you give John when he's talking about Lord of the Rings. We want to see it on your face, Ash."
Which is just pure love and adoration.
There is no eye rolling going on at all.
Yes.
So yeah, head over to the Dirt in My Shoes Instagram or Facebook page at Dirt in My Shoes and let us know. We'll have the question there and you can chime in. Yay or nay, video podcast.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I don't know.
I don't know. A little scary. Because I think I have some resting face.
I have resting. I have RBF. That's my problem. That's like my main hesitation is I'm like, am I going to look grumpy? Somebody at Grand Teton didn't recognize me until I smiled.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was like, I thought it might be you, but then you smiled and I was like, oh yeah, that's her. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, my
I'm so
goodness.
sorry. It's not on purpose. So anyway, let us know. And you guys, we would love to hear from you. Please leave us a 5-star review, mostly on Apple, I think is where you do that. But if you want to leave a comment somewhere else, that's fine too. But 5-star reviews help us so much and we love reading through them. I wish we could respond like on the platform. We can't, but we do read them all and we are so grateful. And so if you've been enjoying the podcast this year, can you take a minute and just leave us a 5-star review? Let us know what you like about it. Give us any ideas for future episodes. That would be honestly the best thing you could give us for Christmas. So,
Nice.
you know, I put that in there. We would like that Christmas gift from you.
I love it. Wrapped up in a 5-star bow.
So thank you so much for exploring the national parks with us this year. It has been an absolute blast and more to come. More to come next year. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up. So we are so happy that you're here and we hope that we can see you out on the trail.